Well, as we've seen all too often this winter so far, any cold spell has been short-lived and minus any real snowfall as well. Cold start though under clear skies and light winds. We've seen a temperature of -8 at Glasgow Airport. I believe we also seen a -8 at Benson in Oxfordshire as well. So across the board, it was a rather chilly start and chillier than really it was a pretty decent cool shot this morning, given the fact that we don't really have much in the way of snow on the ground here, which helps refrigerate that lower atmosphere. But the real cold is over the south and eastern half of Europe. We had once again temperatures across northern parts of Scandinavia into the -40s last night. And as we see that big old snowstorm pushing southeastwards over the continent, we are going to see that colder knife down into the Balkan regions, Greece, even Italy as well, and we may even see some snow down to the Mediterranean level as well. So a wicked cold shot coming down for the southeastern half of the continent. While here across the UK, we remain in the Atlantic influence. And this is the CFSV2 upcoming 7-day period here. What is interesting is that the modelling is starting to kind of pull back from the idea of any substantial cold over Western Europe. And the CFSV2 actually, as we push towards late month, rather than showing colder weather, it's indicating warmer weather. And it's in fact showing almost like a midwinter heat wave if the CFSV2 is anything to go by. So let's skip through the sequence here. You can see a warmer than normal set upcoming 7 days across the UK, bitterly cold from northwestern Russia all the way down into Greece here. We are going to see some very, very cold temperatures through Serbia, Bosnia, northern parts of Greece even. And I mean, we could be talking about temperatures, record breaking levels here when all is said and done, because of course you've laid down a thick snow cover across this region of the continent here, and of course when you've got that bitterly cold Siberian origin air mass sitting over top of that, you are really going to refrigerate the air. But you can see here, this is what's interesting: 8 to 14 days. It cools down somewhat across the UK, across Spain as well, but we're starting to warm things up big time over the eastern half of the continent. And the CFSV2 is indicating that that is a sign of things to come as we leave the month of January, begin the month of February. This is still a long way off. The mullen is very back and forth, so I know that. But it's interesting to see that here, February 2nd through February the 9th. It is indicating that the whole continent is pretty much warmer than average, which is going to be something that remains to be seen. We will wait and see what happens here, whether this model is correct in what it's showing. The GFS indicates that the Atlantic is going to continue to rule across Western Europe. The EPS control and the ECMWF is indicating something a little colder for the continent as we push towards middle late month. So we'll wait and see what happens, but certainly we have got a ton of winter across eastern parts of the continent at the moment. I'm afraid for us here in the western side of the continent, we are going to have to continue dreaming. And a lot of the reason I think why we're seeing this type of winter is that the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation, which is the belt of winds through within the tropical atmosphere, when you've got a westerly QBO, which we have, even though everything else has lined up very nicely this year for what would seem to be a pretty cold winter, it looks as if the westerly QBO is winning out, which tends to enhance the westerlies in the middle altitude of the atmosphere. So the jet stream across the Atlantic into Western Europe tends to be a little bit more pronounced when you've got a westerly QBO. When you've got an easterly QBO, it tends to favour a slacker jet within the mid-Atlantic, the Atlantic in the Europe setup here, which tends to reverse the upper flow, enhances more blocking over the North Atlantic and Greenland, and allows that cold from the continent to head west towards the UK. But that westerly QBO, I think, could be the factor in what is making this a somewhat frustrating winter, and something similar to 2011-12, when of course we've seen some brutal cold over Europe, but the UK on the whole was left out. That's something I've been alluding to. That is something that I had on the menu here on the table way back on the 1st November when I released my winter forecast, that was always going to be a concern, that we could have something similar to what we had back in 2011-12 when the UK was basically dreaming of what Europe was having. So I think that's it for today. I will have a brief written post later on, and I will be back in the next couple of days. Hope you have a great day. Bye for now.